This is Starlink 625 launch coverage. Then 50,000 people used to live here. Dude, look, crew access arm at Slick 40. Awesome. So this is a Falcon 9 rocket. It's just launching some Starlink satellites, so we're not going to be doing this for very long. But I just want to see them fly. I really like doing that. I used to cover every single one, and then SpaceX started launching like a lot. So, yeah. I don't really cover them as much, but the cool news here is the crew access tower. SpaceX just built that because they want another pad to be able to launch people into space with people on it. Now, if you want to launch people into space, you can't just build the launcher part. You have to build the part that has the people on, that can bring the people up.
Stage 1 box load is complete.
That's called a crew access tower, or a fixed service structure. You can see there's the elevator, and then the mounts for the arm are actually right there. See those brackets? And the arm will swing around, and when there's a Dragon capsule here, people will be able to get in. That's really freaking cool. The Cape, down the Cape right now, if you're not familiar with the space program, we have more pads that are capable of launching crew than any point in history. Even like during the Apollo era, during the space race, still have more pads. More pads that can launch crews with more space vehicles, which is pretty cool. This particular mission, here, some knowledge about this mission. This is Starlink 625. The booster that's flying tonight is boosters 1077. It's the 8th flight for that first stage. It's carrying
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
It's carrying 23 Starlink V2s, which puts our payload capacity here, or payload mass, at about 18,000 kilos. It's moving a lot. This is SpaceX's 78th mission of the year, which is bananas, and the 269th, nice, Falcon 9 mission, and the 74th Falcon 9 mission of this year. 175th orbital attempt for 2023. Okay, TE purge, there it is. They're pumping the second stage fuel and oxidizer lines. They're venting them over right there. That's why that's why it ripped that fat vape cloud right there. Are you going to build a space program in your city after you fix the garbage issue? I don't know, sheep, maybe. Hey, Nico, what's up, buddy? All right, T-minus 60 seconds. That crew access arm is so cool, man.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
You can see the crane behind it that made it. Maybe you could send the garbage to space? Ah, yes, the Futurama solution, sheep. Good news, everyone. Bad news. I don't think we can do that. "30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I just said that. Dev, this is Complex 40 down at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's Florida. It's by Kennedy Space Center.
15 seconds.
Okay, sound suppression system will turn on here.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Engine ignition.
2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And
there we go.
Lift off.
Starlink 625. Okay, everything is looking good.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
I think the vehicle might be pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
And the stage 1 propulsion might be nominal. I'm sorry, I found that funny. Okay, rocket is a mile off the deck here, traveling at 500 kilometers an hour. I know, Jock, it's pretty crazy, right? Power and telemetry call should be happening now.
Power and telemetry nominal.
See? I've watched too many of these. Okay, next step in the flight here is maximum dynamic pressure. That's peak aerodynamic load being put on the vehicle. Basically, Falcon 9's going pretty dang fast, and at this point, there's still atmosphere in the way.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
There it is. There's a call for supersonic and max Q. There's still air in the way. And the air can't get moved out of the way fast enough. When you can't move if you're going so fast you can't move the air out of the way fast enough, it starts to compress against the front of the vehicle and squish it. You don't want to squish your rocket. Bad idea. So they throttle back the engines. They put the engines into what's called a throttle bucket. At least throttle bucket alludes to how it looks on the telemetry, where the engines throttle up and then they throttle down and then they throttle up again. It's a big bucket, right?
MVAC chill has started.
Okay, so now they've started moving propellants. Falcon 9 has started moving propellants into the second stage engine to make sure it's thermally conditioned and at the right operating temperatures and primed, basically, for ignition, which should be happening in the next 45 seconds. Rocket's 31 kilometers, 32 now, traveling at 4,200 kilometers an hour. It's crazy. 18.4 tons, Thomas. That's insane. It's not going to, Admana, but alright. Okay. Vehicle's pitching over for staging right there. You can see the background, the Terminator of Earth right there as the sun's going down here on the East Coast. Vehicle's 58 kilometers in altitude, traveling at 7,700 kilometers an hour.
Main engine cutoff.
There's the call for main engine cutoff and staging.
Stage separation confirmed.
Okay, good separation. Upper
MVAC ignition.
There's the call for upper stage ignition. Very good. Stiffener ring separation on the second stage. Everything looks real good. Okay, I'm going to move out of the way here so you guys can see a little bit better. Second stage is now 90 kilometers in altitude, traveling at 8,200 kilometers an hour. First,
Separation confirmed.
there's the... I saw the fairing do something a little strange. I haven't seen it do that before, but could just be me. I'm so happy that this is routine, dudes. I don't know about you. Either way, second stage is 113 kilometers, traveling at 8,900 kilometers an hour.
Vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Good report there from the flight dynamics officer, or whatever SpaceX calls Fido. First stage at 113 kilometers, traveling at 7,100. It's almost at the peak of its ballistic arc here. The first stage, when it reaches peak altitude, you note the speed will stop going down, it'll start going up. So when that the speed indicator over here, when it stops going down, starts going up, it's at the peak, it's at apogee of its ballistic arc, which means it's the highest point. It'll start coming back down here in a moment. Meanwhile, the second stage is 135 kilometers in altitude, traveling at 10,000 kilometers an hour. Okay, first stage has reached its apogee at 116 kilometers an hour, 116 kilometers, 7,100 kilometers an hour. You can see there's some nitrogen, solid nitrogen is being put off from the first stage there. Those are the thrusters to make sure that the engines are pointed in the right direction for good entry, descent, and landing, or EDL for short. It's a guide, Violent, the pneumatic guiding system, to make sure that the nozzle doesn't hit the side of the interstage during separation. Ian, it's almost time to say it. Solid nitrogen is what those snowflakes are, Wolf. Yeah, SpaceX is using cold gas nitrogen thrusters. It's basically a similar system to, like, if your keyboard cleaner,
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Right? And when you have that compressed gas and you outgas it here, it gets cold, right? But it's not going to be that big of a deal. It just come out as a gas. If you outgas cold gas into a vacuum, some of it will solidify, because in that moment where the heat is getting completely sucked out of it, it'll phase change. It'll change to a solid. That's what those snowflakes are up there. That's not snow. That's solid nitrogen. Second stage here at 5 minutes, 48 seconds, 160 kilometers in altitude, traveling at 13,500 kilometers an hour. The magic number for that second stage is 27,000 kilometers an hour. So we're about maybe about halfway to orbit. Meanwhile, the first stage is starting to hit entry here, and will do its entry burn here at 69 nice kilometers in altitude, traveling at 7,900 kilometers an hour. Note that the speed is going back up, but it will start decelerating here as it does its entry burn. What the first stage is doing there is firing its engines to slow down, but it's also using them to push re-entry heating out of the way. It's decelerating, and decelerating is good because the ground is coming up pretty fast, but also
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
same as going on the way up, but kind of to a more crazy extent, is that air gets compressed against the vehicle once it hits the atmosphere going really, really fast, right? That causes ionization. That makes plasma. It basically is going so fast it rips the air apart. Yeah, think like breaking the table at pool, right? Same idea. It's going so fast it just shoots off ions in pretty much every direction. That creates a lot of energy release because it'll make plasma. Falcon 9 uses its first stage engines to shoot rocket exhaust at the plasma and push it out of the way. It's really freaking cool. I'll watch this every time. I still think it's neat. So 7 minutes 22 seconds. Second stage is at 158 kilometers, traveling at 19,400 kilometers an hour. First stage, 9 kilometers.
Stage 1 transonic.
1,400 kilometers an hour. It's now subsonic again. Supersonic retropropulsion. That's what it's called. It's the best part.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Lock it down, 23 months. Okay, 7 minutes, 50 seconds into the flight. Second stage at 155 kilometers. 22,000 kilometers an hour. The magic number...
terminal guidance.
The magic number for second stage here is 27.
Discovery, go at throttle.
Meanwhile, first stage is 1 mile off the ground. Okay. 500 meters.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Thank you, passing. Jeez.
Stage 1.
There's the drone ship. Landing legs.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
8 minutes, 28 seconds. First stage touchdown on the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Second stage,
Discovery,
152
go at
kilometers in altitude, traveling at 26,500 kilometers an hour. Stand by for second stage engine cutoff, or SECO 1.
MVAC shutdown.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
MVAC shutdown, 27,058. Good. Should get a call for nominal orbit insertion here.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Told you. They make it look easy, man. It's too easy. That's not, they make it look easy. That's not easy to do. Falcon 9's first stage is 15 stories tall. It's a 15-story building. I stood next to one. That's just comes down from, 90 miles up and just hits a drone ship that's the size of a football field. Whatever. What did you do today? Well, you know what, Elon? I made my bed today, dick. All right? Now what? Anyway, that was the Starlink 625 launch. We're going to jump right back into cities, okay? Did I see 20 subs in there? Is that what happened? Passing gifted 20 subs? You did. And there was a bunch of other subs in there too. Thank you very much. To be fair, he probably doesn't make his own bed. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that does that. He does it. He's not a I make my bed kind of guy. Well, you said it. Oh, all right. Well, hey, that was good coverage there. And now what we're going to do is get back to listening to Glender.